The night shift. Sarah had worked the graveyard shift at Mercy General Hospital for 3 years, but she'd never been assigned to the 4th floor before. The old psychiatric ward had been shut down in the 80s, converted into storage, for medical records that hadn't been digitized yet. Budget cuts, they said. Always budget cuts. Her supervisor, Derek, handed her a key and a clipboard, with the kind of apologetic smile that meant he knew this assignment sucked. Just do a wellness check every 2 hours, he said. Make sure the climate control is working. Those old records are worth a lawsuit. If they get damaged, some of them go back to the 50s. Why now? Sarah asked. That floor's been closed my entire time here. Derek shrugged. Insurance wants proof. We're maintaining it. You know how it is. Should be easy. Just you and a bunch of dusty filing cabinets. Bring a book or something. Sarah had tried to swap shifts with anyone, everyone. But it was 2 weeks before Christmas, and everyone had legitimate excuses. Family obligations, prior commitments. Her friend Jessica had actually laughed when Sarah asked. No way. I heard stories about that floor. One of the night janitors quit after a single shift up there. Wouldn't even say what happened. But Sarah needed the overtime. Her student loans weren't going to pay themselves, and nursing school hadn't been cheap. So she'd taken the assignment, told herself the janitor story was just hospital gossip, and tried not to think about it too much. The elevator groaned as it lifted her to the 4th floor, the cables squealing like they hadn't been used in years. Sarah checked her watch. 11:47 p.m., like the inside of a library that had been locked up for decades. Except underneath it all was something else. Something organic and wrong that made her stomach turn. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. The kind that belonged in government buildings or archives. Emergency exit signs cast everything in red, and the fluorescent lights overhead flickered with the rhythm of a dying heartbeat. Sarah stepped out of the elevator, and it immediately closed behind her, descending with that same mechanical groan. She was alone. She pulled out her phone to text Derek that she'd arrived, but there was no signal. The icon showed 0 bars. Strange, but not unprecedented in older parts of hospitals. Something about the concrete and steel in the walls. The clipboard had a simple checklist. Temperature readings at specific points along the hallway. Visual confirmation that the filing cabinets were secure. But she figured she'd walk the floor, get familiar with the layout, maybe find a decent spot to sit and read. Her footsteps echoed on linoleum that had probably been installed in the 70s, that distinctive pattern of mustard yellow and burnt orange that showed up in every government building from that era, stacked floor to ceiling. Medical records in manila folders, some of them spotted with age. Patient names she could barely make out in the dim light. Morrison, E. Gutierrez, T. Peterson, R. The kind of sound someone makes when they're lost in their own world. Sarah froze, her hand still on the doorframe. Hospital security made regular rounds. Maybe someone was checking on something, like when you're in the woods and all the birds stop singing at once because a predator is near. The hallway was empty, stretching back toward the elevator in that same unsettling perspective. A sliver of deeper darkness visible through the gap. The humming grew louder, that same tuneless melody looping over and over. The room was empty, completely empty. No boxes, no files, nothing. Just bare walls with those old-style industrial fixtures, and a single drain in the center of the floor. The kind of room they'd used for hydrotherapy back when the floor was active, catching the red glow from the exit sign. Not water. Too thick. Too viscous. It looked almost black in the dim light. She grabbed her radio with trembling fingers. 4th floor, copy. Do you need me down there? Like it had been sitting in a freezer. She could see her breath misting in the air, even though the temperature gauge had read 68 degrees just minutes ago. She checked her watch, 12:03 a.m., blocking her direct path back. The wheels on the bottom were rusty, squeaking. There was no way they'd moved silently. "This isn't funny," she called out, her voice cracking despite her efforts to sound calm. "I don't know who's doing this, but this is a restricted floor. You're trespassing." A door slammed. The stairwell seemed to stretch infinitely in both directions, landing after landing, disappearing into shadow. Something that dragged itself step by step, slowly, steadily, getting closer. Sarah burst through the 5th floor door. The message read, "Room 419. Sarah's eyes tracked to the end of the hallway. It raised one arm slowly, deliberately, beckoning her forward. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the same number. Her lungs burned. Her leg muscles screamed. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst. She passed doors marked with floor numbers that made no sense. 7, 12, 19, 23. The night receptionist, Marcus, looked up from his computer, startled. "Miss, are you okay?" Sarah gasped for air, her lungs burning, looking around wildly. Everything was normal. No dust, no scratches from squeezing between the filing cabinets, no tear in the shoulder. Sarah's phone was dead in her hand. When she turned it on with trembling fingers, it showed 17 missed calls. But her phone showed 17 missed calls over what looked like days. The dates in her call log jumped forward, then back, then forward again. She took the stairs down to the parking garage. She couldn't make herself get in an elevator, not now. Maybe not ever again. Her car was where she'd left it, exactly where she'd parked 3 hours ago. Something was very wrong. She called Derek from her apartment, her hands still shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. She moved out of her apartment. It was too quiet, too isolated. She moved into a place with roommates. Maybe it had been a hallucination. Stress and exhaustion and too many double shifts finally catching up with her. Same unknown number. Then again and again. Every night at exactly 11:52 p.m., her phone would ring. Sarah changed her number. It didn't help. The new phone rang at 11:52 p.m. Unknown number. And somewhere in the background, underneath the humming, she heard it. The wet sound of bare feet on linoleum, slowly walking, getting closer with each loop of that terrible song. She hung up immediately, her whole body shaking. She's learned to keep the phone in another room, volume off, so she doesn't have to hear it, but she always knows when it's ringing. She can feel it somehow, like a pressure in her skull. Sometimes, late at night when she can't sleep, she'll drive past Mercy General, just to look. But sometimes, if she looks carefully, she can see them in the windows, figures in gray hospital gowns, standing perfectly still, watching the street below, waiting. And once, just once, she saw Derek pull up for a night shift. The way elevators sometimes take too long to arrive, and when they do, she can smell antiseptic and rot. She's learned to live with knowing that somewhere in a hospital across town, there's a floor that shouldn't exist, a floor where time doesn't work right, where the dead keep their appointments, where the night shift never really ends. Because that last text message, the one that still sits in her phone, even though she's deleted it 100 times, it always comes back. Her phone stops ringing. The voicemail notification pops up. She won't listen to it. She never does anymore.